Red's Apple Ale. So I just watched Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Let me preface this by saying a couple of things. I am not a Jane Austen fan. I am not a fan of classic literature. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's good. I read the book Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I have also seen the A&E miniseries produced in the mid-90s. My opinion is going to be slightly skewed. That being said, holy was this an abortion of a movie. This is coming from somebody who is not a Jane Austen fan, who is not a fan of classic literature. Pride and Prejudice is an interesting story and has a lot of really, really great scenes. Now, I realize that a lot of the scenes had to be cut to fit into a 108-minute movie. But still, a lot of the things that were cut were unnecessarily cut, but they also added in that didn't need to be in there. They added in this whole prologue about how the zombie plague started, rather than just having the story happen and allowing us to infer that. They also added in this weird subplot about how some of the zombies didn't eat human brains and thus didn't fully complete their transformation, and some of the zombies could talk. No. If you read the book at all, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, it was not a zombie movie that happened to include Pride and Prejudice. It was Pride and Prejudice that happened to include zombies. That's an important distinction. One that this movie did not make. There were a lot of scenes that were weirdly done. There's a part where Mr. Collins in the book, he is initially after Jane, but then he goes after Elizabeth because Jane might possibly be spoken for. He has this conversation in private with the mother. Well, in this movie, in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, he has that conversation in front of everyone, including Jane and Elizabeth. What a cock. Like, that just seems like a dick thing to do. And then later on, there's dialogue that's actually in the book, that's in the movie, where he says, "From the moment I got here, I set my sights on you." No, motherfucker, everyone was there when you said, "Oh, Jane is the handsomest of all your daughters," and the mother was like, "But Jane's spoken for." It was too dark. Like, I mean that quite literally. Like the tone wasn't darker. I mean, the tone was dark. It was a zombie movie, but no, that was not my problem. The film itself was too dark. All of the party scenes were far, far too dark. And I realized that, yes, it's all lit by candlelight and firelight and whatever, but there was no reason why it needed to be that dark for scenes like that. Scenes that ostensibly had nothing to do with the zombies. There was one scene with the sets that really bothered me. It's when Elizabeth and her friend's sister go visit Lady Catherine de Bourgh. Is that how you say that? De Bourgh? Lady Catherine de Bourgh. There's a scene where they go to visit her and they're in her stately manor of Roseburg or Rosenwood or something like that. I don't remember. Alcohol, the other white meat. There's a scene where they're in her manor, and it's very obvious that beyond a certain point in the set, it's just a painting. Like, they literally painted a wall and said they're like, "There, that'll look like a stately hallway." They completely removed a character, and again, I understand a certain amount of cutting was necessary. They removed the character of Colonel Fitzwilliam from the movie entirely. He's actually the one who tells Liz that Darcy was the one who told Bingley not to marry her sister Jane. And if you had trouble following that, I don't blame you. But long story short, Fitzwilliam is a character that was supposed to relay an important information that now falls to Wickham, who in the movie is the big bad. In fairness, in the book, he is the closest thing that there is to a big bad in the book. Not only in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, but also in Pride and Prejudice as well. He's the closest thing that either of those books has to a big bad. So I suppose I get making him the big bad, but there's no reason for him to know about that particular little tidbit of information. And in fact, him knowing about that bit of information is actually called into question by Liz, and he gives some half-hearted excuse about, "Oh, people talk." No, that is not something people talk about. The scene, one of the best scenes in the movie, is also happens to be one of the best scenes in the book. When Darcy comes to propose to Elizabeth Bennet, she flips out on him and they fight. That's a great scene in both the movie and the book, so I give props to the movie. That was done very well. The casting in this movie was not good. Not good at all. I was okay with Lily James as Elizabeth Bennet. She did a good job there. I was also okay with Bella Heathcote Heathcote as Jane Bennet. She was also very, very good. The biggest craw in my spine, the biggest problem I had with casting in this movie had to be with Darcy, because if you've ever seen the 1995 version, which if you're watching this movie, I don't honestly believe that you've seen the 1995 version of Pride and Prejudice, but if you've ever seen that, the casting in that is very, very good, with one small exception, in that the Bennet daughters, in fact most of the women folk in the movie, are played by women who are significantly older than the women that they play, but the women in that particular version of it are such good actresses that it doesn't matter. This version, the women are played by women who at the very least look age appropriate, but Mr. Darcy is supposed to be significantly older than Elizabeth Bennet. He doesn't look it. He does not look older than her at all. Also, his voice, for some reason he seems to be doing sort of a Batman voice, only Batman light. Like, that's his voice. It's supposed to be gravelly and manly, but it just comes off as contrived. Also, the Lady Catherine de Bourgh casting was not good. Don't get me wrong, I love Lena Headey. I have been in love with Lena Headey since Terminator, the television series. Oh my god, that woman is an amazing actress. She's a bad and she's hot. Can we just say that, please? She's smoking hot. But Lady Catherine de Bourgh is not supposed to be smoking hot. Lady Catherine de Bourgh is supposed to be at least 50 years Elizabeth's senior, and in the book, Elizabeth is about 20 years old, roughly, which makes Lady Catherine de Bourgh 70. Lena Headey, in her worst day, doesn't look anywhere approaching 70 years old. The last 2/3 of the book make no sense. They cut the best scene in the entire movie is when Lady Catherine de Bourgh shows up to the home of the Bennets to ask about the engagement between Elizabeth and Darcy, one that Elizabeth knows nothing about. The back and forth in that scene is amazing. Not in the movie. They cut 2/3 of it out. And then, out of nowhere, they turn Lady Catherine de Bourgh into a hero rather than the bitter old traditional wretch that she's supposed to be in the book. And then they have this whole scene that is found nowhere in either book, where they're fighting for the life of London. And then Wickham turns out, like I mentioned Wickham earlier as the big bad, he literally turns out to be the big bad. He's leading all the zombies. During the fight between him and Mr. Darcy, which by the way never happened in either book, his shirt gets ripped and it's revealed, oh, he's been bitten. He's a zombie. That didn't happen anywhere. And it doesn't make any damn sense. It doesn't make any damn sense. It's because we have to have a Hollywood happy ending, even though the book actually provides a pretty good Hollywood happy ending. We've got to have an even more Hollywood happy ending where we defeat the zombies, we win the day, and we save London, and that is some bull. The book was great. The plot of the book was amazing. There was no reason that we had to go and turn it into this stupid Hollywood sanitized happy ending bull. So, all in all, if you are not a fan of Jane Austen, or you are not a fan of the book Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, you might, maybe, possibly enjoy this. But if you have read either book, you will not enjoy this, because it is a garbage fire of a movie. It is an abortion of a movie, and it rips the source material to shreds for no other reason than, oh, we're Hollywood, and we know what's best. We know how to tell stories. The last 20 years will prove that you were wrong, Hollywood. You do not know how to tell stories. So, thank you, Hollywood, for taking something that was amazing and ruining it. Thank you very fucking much. So, if you have a chance to Redbox this for $1.50, yeah, go ahead and watch it. And that is my drunk review. I'm actually really angry now at this movie. I was angry when I saw it, but I'm angry now. So, that is my drunk review. Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, the movie. Not fucking worth it if you're any kind of fan of Jane Austen or the book Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.